problem with the Rode mic. Now, can you hear me now? John? Ooh. Is that good? Is that better? Go ahead, channel activity. Yeah, I mean, sound is registering on the microphone. So I've just been talking to myself. Oh my God. I don't know why that might have happened, but is there sound now? Can you hear me now? Ah, brilliant. Super. Oh, Jackie. Oh, two newbies. How are you doing, John and Jackie? It's lovely to have you in. So where are you viewing from? I'm very interested to hear where you are, and are you on the one of my sort of subscribers? Is that how you heard about this thing? So I'm still sort of a bit of a newbie at this kind of thing myself. I mean, I've done lots of videos, but I don't really understand how any of this stuff works. So yeah, that's good. So you can hear me, wonderful, and quality is good, and I'm not. There's not a jerky sort of. Oklahoma, wow, great, great, lovely, thank you. And where are you from, John? Yeah, I don't know. I suppose if you haven't been here before, you can see behind me is my studio. Let's see what else I can show you. What I'm working on at the moment. Can you see that sort of abstract there behind me? That's one thing. And there's a painting which is almost as tall as me. So that's another thing that I'm working on at the moment. So that's one of my London paintings there. I was, and you're in Ohio. Oh, good man. All right, okay. So, wow, isn't technology wonderful? See, there you go. So you can see that is a train station near where I grew up in London. So we'll see if we come over here. That's it, yeah. And that's a painting I'm in the process of. I haven't really worked out what the story is going on yet. Because, hang on, let me. These things take, for me, they kind of build as I'm painting them. Sort of, as I'm painting, I'm thinking through what am I actually trying to say here. It seldom comes to me in a flash before I start painting. Has done before, but I very often have to sort of work myself into what I'm trying to actually say, because I find that that's the process. I start working, and that's what creates the art. It's not I think of the art and then I start working. I can't do that. Some people can, I'm sure, but not me. I don't know what it's like for you. And then there are plenty of artists that don't. So they don't need to think about it at all, and their work isn't like that anyway. So there's room for everybody in art, isn't there? That's what's so good about it. So everybody has something to say. Everybody's lived a life, and have their influences and all that stuff. Yes, yeah, maybe we can use technology as a tool, John says, and that's quite true, isn't it? And I do as well, sort of. So I mean, not exactly advanced, but if I need somebody in a particular position, to paint them so that it's convincing, I'll use photographs and everything like that. But I met a Mexican artist who lives here in Dublin. She's brilliant. Like, and she does lots of. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much. It's gratifying. Thank you. A Mexican artist, and she does mural art, and she's great. Her name is Katrina Rupit, Rupit. So, and she's just wonderful work. And she often uses AI to generate a kind of a plan for her paintings. That's what she was telling me. I mean, it's all painted by her, but she kind of positions her character if she's got a character in her work, which mostly she does. And so she plays around with color, and so I mean it works for her. I just haven't done that yet. I'm not sure even how to do it. And besides, for me, I think I try not to be too sort of hyper accurate in the paintings. I find that's a problem. I want to actually get away from accuracy. Yeah, I know. We all try. The thing that I kind of realised that nobody likes their own paintings, and if, you know, from teaching, you know, nearly every student sort of I teach doesn't like what they've done, and I always half the time I'm thinking, God, I wish I'd done that, you know, because uh, you know, your lack of skills, if you know, if that's why you're in a class, I suppose, it kind of can contribute to what you're painting. A lot of people don't sort of realize that because they've got an inner Rembrandt in their head, you know, sort of criticizing them. You've got to get rid of that. You know, it's not like other arts, is it? It's not like poetry or music. You know, if music is atonal, it just sounds horrible. So it kind of satisfies a different part of the brain. Anyway, so what I'm going to paint. Let me see if this works now. So this evening, because I in 2008 I started this. Yeah, inaccurate. Yeah, you got to, what was it? You got to turn your failings into virtues. So let's have a look. So, oh yes, I was saying that I kind of got involved reasonably early on in that daily painting thing. That, you know, Carol Marine, she was an early adopter or an early person in this sort of school of art. The daily painting thing was an internet-based phenomenon, isn't it? Dwayne Kaiser started it. Dwayne Kaiser, um, somewhere in the States. So he was the kind of originator of it all. But I was kind of, you know, that was about 2006, and I kind of got involved in 2008. You know, putting up these daily paintings, and that's what I'm going to do tonight. A little still life daily painting on 5-inch by 7-inch board. So, all right. Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you. I'm all confused now. Hang on. Oh, yes, that's what I was going to do. It's going to show. Oh, that's not working. Um, oh, that's the palette. It's not the palette I want. It's the reference. Yes, so that's what I'm going to paint. It's not. You can see it. You can't see the top of that bottle on the right, but that's what I'm going to paint. So let's go to the work. Okay, so here, right. So this is what I'm going to paint here. You can see how small the board is, can't you? And the daily paintings are you know, best done small because you can get them done in one sitting. So what I'll do is I'll start into this, and first of all, I'll show you. Let me have a look. Go back to the palette. So show you my paints. Like, I don't know whether you have Winsor and Newton in the States. So the colours I'm using are titanium white, cadmium yellow, pale hue, permanent rose, cobalt blue, ivory black, and burnt sienna. These ones are based on the printer's colours: cyan, yellow, magenta, and black. But I wanted to get a palette for my students which was readily available, because you can't always get cyan and magenta in the stores. So I chose these colours. They seem to behave very much like the printer's colours. So it's a kind of a palette that gives you a wide gamut of colours. And oh, thank you, John. You're very kind. I'm all embarrassed now. You can see my hands going red. So yeah, and burnt. So those are the printer's colours there. The white is what would be sort of satisfied by the paper in printing, and the burnt sienna is for the wash, the drawing, and making very dark chromatic darks. Okay, so that's my rationale for having this palette. It kind of gives you a wide gamut of true-ish colours, but not in every case, because no palette is going to satisfy every situation. And also, you might not want to get accurate colours. You might want to be pushing the envelope. But this is a good set for basic, you know, kind of early days, if you're just getting used to colours and painting. Now the thing is, a permanent rose and a cobalt blue, any of the colours might be the same in another range. And that's a problem that I just can't get over. I don't know what Gamblin, you know, I'm just trying to think of American manufacturers. will have. Will they have the same, a similar colour to Permanent Rose? I don't know. It's a kind of a coolish, pinkish red. I just can't. I can't do that. You'll have to sort of find out for yourselves, really. And unless I can find get some sent to me, but then I'd have to sort of get them to send a whole load of colours over to sort through them. I don't know how to get over that particular problem. Okay, the fact that they're Griffin, that just means that there's a fast drying agent already in them. Okay, the brushes I'm going to use are these ones. They're nice short, mostly short flat brights, although there is a round. A short flat bright just means that that there is like a chisel, if you see what I mean. See, it's like a blade. Oh, you do have them. Oh, right. Okay, Jackie. Right. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm not sure I understand what OP means, John. I'm going oil paints. Right. Sorry. Yeah. This is a live stream about oil painting. Yeah. I'm a bit thick, don't worry. So, right, so, right, let's get on with it. So I'm going to put this lot out first, okay? So I'm going to start here. I always put my paints out the same way every time. Yeah, it's a kind of a way that you know where everything is. And I always put all my paints out as well. All the ones that I'm going to use. I don't sort of think to myself, oh, I might use a red today or whatever it is that because I'm painting green grass or something, I might not think I want reds, but then you discover that you do need it and you haven't put it out. So I always put them all out. It just makes painting faster, and you don't want to go hunting for paint when you're in the zone. Otherwise, you'll just knock yourself right out of the zone, won't you? A little bit of black. I only use black for shadows. I don't use it for anything else, okay? And then that's the burnt. Can you see it? Yeah, if I put it there, it's fine. All right, so burnt sienna there. Oop. Put it back on there. I'll leave them out so I can use them. Let me turn my camera around so that I might be moving over here a little bit. So, oh, look at that. That's a terrible. That's my camera arm, scissor arm there. Oh well, look, you don't need to see my face while I'm painting, do you? So, right. So I've got my paints out. There's my solvent. Okay, and I use either Zest It, which is a citrus oil. It's not really citrus. It's made from maize apparently, but they kind of put an aroma in it of lemon. You could use Sansador, or there's Gamblin Do one. They're kind of low odor thinners, but I like the Zest It because it's studio safe and it's not nowhere near as bad for you as Terps or Sansador. Okay, right. Let me get into my work. Right, the first thing I always do, OP art. Okay. Ivor, you're stingy with paint. Yes, that's the problem. And I used to be stingy with paint as well. But an artist friend of mine, he was, I very much looked up to him. And he said to me, he says, "You got to use paint, Kev." Because I was trying to eke it out, or over the entire area, trying to save paint. You just got to stop that thinking. It's an occupational hazard to waste paint. I always end up with quite a lot left over. And sometimes I'll leave it on the palette for another day, but very often the other day might be sort of a few days hence, and then there's a skin formed over the paint, so I'm almost better off getting rid of it. Yes, well, it depends on the paint as well, John, about wasting the paint. Yeah, you certainly wouldn't want to be wasting Michael Harding paints. And people put their palettes in the freezer. That's one sort of way people get round this. And there's all sorts of methods people have. I don't know, I just haven't got time for it. I just get annoyed with it. And besides, my wife would go crazy if she saw me putting the oily pellet in the freezer. Of course, you don't know what the solvents are going to do either to the food around it. I don't know, I'm not a chemist. Right, so now I've my orientation is going to be, despite the landscape that you can see in the reference, I'm painting from life. I've got this thing up in front of me, but I'm going to do it as a portrait. So I've determined my orientation. Yeah. Practice paint. Do you mean student quality paints? Yeah, sometimes that's a false economy as well, the student quality painting. I think if you don't know that you're going to be getting into painting, you get some good quality student paints. Winsor & Newton ones are good, the Winton. But some of these packs that you get in I think you call them thrift stores. Maybe, I'm not sure. They're these, we call them pound shops or Euro shoppers or something like that, with cheap paints, and they're awful. They don't work. There's not enough pigment in them. So I'm going to measure first. So hang on, let me just measure. For me, it's 2/3. There's another thing, John, about paint, is that, and the materials, the materials onto which you're putting the paint. Let me just come around here, sort of. Is that, and this same artist, the one that told me about using the paint, it said to me, so I picked up an awful lot of stuff from him. We walked into an art shop and he was painting, he was going to paint on paper. And, you know, I might have used at the time when I was in it with him, that, you know, that particular moment in my career, you know, I would have painted on sort of reasonably sort of cheap paper and stuff like that, because we were both doing illustrations for newspapers. But he kind of pulled out this sheet of, the brand is Arches, ARCHES, paper, you know, and it's heavy watercolor, proper watercolor paper. And he pulled it out and he held it up in front of him. He rubbed his face on it and he said, smooth, he says. And he turned to me and he says, good paper that. He says, you won't mess it up. So, I mean, the point he was making is that the materials have a psychological effect as well. So you kind of work harder. You respect the materials. Whereas if you get cheap paint and cheap stuff to paint on, you're just kind of throwing paint around and everything. And it does have an effect on the way you approach the work. So, and it's nice to work with good materials. It's nice to work with good paint, because you get more out of good paint anyway. You get sort of better coverage, and it lasts longer. Yeah, okay, right, so let's get back to work. So I just determined that it was about, oh God, what did I determine? Let's have a look. I think it was it a quarter? Yeah, between 1/3 and 1/4 as wide as it's high. The whole thing. So let's say that, and let's say that is the height. So the whole thing should occupy an area like that. That's the 2 bottles and the clementine. I'll give myself a box to work to. So hopefully I won't do you know what, I might actually just move it down a wee bit. Give it more weight at the bottom. Okay. Right. So, what's in the center of this? The center is it that stalk coming up? It kind of is. So the stalk is in the center, so I can give myself a center line, just a light one there, and the stalk of that clementine will come into the middle of that, which must mean that the clementine, because the stalk is coming out of the center at the top, is something like that. And then the other bottle, the blue bottle, comes slightly to the right of the center line, up there. What's the half top to bottom? Halfway top to bottom is just under the shoulder. So if I give myself a halfway line there, so the shoulder should come up there, something like that. Now, I might make an artistic decision and decide to move that slightly to the left. And then the other bottle kind of corresponds with the, maybe it's a little higher than the bottom of the blue bottle. There. Hey Miles, how you doing? Good to see you. Had a bit of a mishap earlier on, sort of getting the live stream started. Up there, I might actually sort of exceed my little box slightly. All right, and then this, we call it stalk, just sort of exceeds, or it comes up. I'm going to actually sort of change it so that it just veers off to the left a little bit, because I think it looks better. And then there's this kind of quarter moon of leaf there. There's another leaf around the back, but I can't really see it, so that's grand. Let me just check that blue bottle, because I think it's a bit narrower than I have it. The wind's getting up. I'm not sure if you can hear the wind rushing here. That can come up a bit more, and that can come up there. God, you haven't missed much at all, Miles, or something. Oh, there's a label on this, isn't there? And the label comes in under the top of the... There. And now where's the horizon? The horizon kind of occurs somewhere up there like that. There. And then there's shadows. The shadows are objects too, so I'm going to put that shadow in there. I've got a spotlight on this, actually, which is... It helps. Helps to have a directional light on your work. There. Okay. No other salient points there. Right. I'm going to grab my short flat bright number 6. I mean, I've said this before, that the number doesn't seem to bear any relation. I'm not sure, what was it? 6 what? 6 inches and 6 millimeters? No, it's none of those things. Seems to be an arbitrary system that they have, these brushes. I'm using them because they're short, and when I use long handled brushes, I'm bashing off the cameras. So, well, let's put the star of the show in first. Let's make up an orange. So yellow and permanent rose to make a nice orangey red. And then there's a shadow of that, which I'm going to use just a touch of black to make the shadow there. Sorry, there. All right, I'm going to put the shadow in first. And then wipe my brush down, because I've got a rag, remember? I always have a rag with me when I'm painting. Needs a bit more of that orange there. I'll put that in. Block this. And then move on to the blue bottle. I think I could make blue plus a bit of red And you know, a little bit of black, because it starts out very dark at the bottom. Okay, I'm going to put that in first. And then across the top, and then down the left hand side, I'll push that up a little bit. The left hand side here. And that's okay there. And I'm going to put in a grey. I'm just putting in sort of markers, essentially. They're like mapping points in my, just all around the painting, so that I don't lose. If I lose the drawing, I still know where I am. So let me just make up a grey. So white, blue, yellow, bit of red, makes a nice grey. Kind of a chromatic grey, really. Let's just put a bit of black into it just to deepen it. I just want to put a little part down there, under here. Just establish little parts of my painting there. All right. Now I'm going to make the background that green. So fair amount of white. I'll make sure that I don't sort of go where you can't really see. I don't want to go off camera. I suppose that's what I'm thinking of. So yellow, blue, and white. A bit more yellow. There's a slight bit of red into it, just to knock it down a little bit, prevent it being too white. Let me get a bit more. Some of the paint just disappears up into the bristles, into the middle of the bristles, and then it seems like you don't have enough to complete the painting. So you know, you need to make enough paint that will last you through the painting, hopefully, without having to make new mixtures. All right, so maybe that will do there. Something like that. Now there is a shadow. There's a shadow off behind that blue bottle. So I'm going to put a little bit of black into that, make a shadow version. So I've got a shadow version, body color, shadow color, the cast shadow on the background. And I'm going to put that in first, the shadow. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. I'm just looking at the screen. It's the camera's sort of not picking up the subtleties too much, so let's bring that there, like that. There, and maybe even a little bit down in between these two objects. Good, and that means I can go on to the body colour. Just going to lengthen the paint a little bit by putting just a touch of solvent into it. Once I put it down, it looks different than on the board. Okay, so I added a little bit of yellow into it. So this is a big block. Okay, and of course it's clear glass here, so you can actually see right through it. And what I find that people do is they'll mix up a colour for the background, you know, for clear glass, so to for example, and then they won't paint inside the glass, and it's because there's some kind of mental block, I think, and they think that it should be different inside the glass, and very often it isn't. And then if you make up a separate mix, then it doesn't look like you're looking through glass anymore. So you've got to sort of you've got to carry the illusion through, because it is an illusion, isn't it? Painting. make another 3D surface into a 2D one. Right, so that leaf, I'm going to make it slightly darker, but let's get some, let's see what the, ivory black and yellow will make a perfectly good green. Look. But it needs a little bit of red into it to make it more natural. Just make it a bit darker. All right, and then put that in as a block. Okay, so that block's done. And now the foreground. So what I'm actually sitting that lot of stuff on is a wine box that I got from somebody. And so it's fairly light coloured wood. I can't wait until it ages a bit and gets a bit sort of grayer and darker. So white, yellow, red, a bit more yellow, and a bit of blue just to sort of stop it being so bright. It's something like that. We'll put a bit more blue into it. And then there's a shadow being cast by the blue bottle and the clementine. So I'm going to use a little bit of black, pull some of that colour aside, the body colour, and make a shadow colour from it. That's the only reason to use black. This is what I always teach at the beginning. There are other ways of making shadows, but this is the easiest to impart, I suppose. Something like that. Okay, so let's peer around my camera and put the shadow in first. You know, because you're always painting from dark to light, so you put the shadows in first, and then put your body colour in. Oh, there's one here, isn't there? There's a nice one there. And then just mix that bit there. I can put my wood colour in. Excuse me while I just make up a bit more. I put it down and I could hardly see it against the... I don't want to make it too light though, this is the thing. A bit more red, a bit more yellow, a bit more blue, a bit more yellow. I've also got to make sure I've got enough of the stuff. Something like that. Okay, that's better. And just fill that in. See if I can get them around here with the same brush. I like to paint with the same brush as much as I can, and I only go towards a smaller brush, when it becomes absolutely necessary. I don't like painting with too many brushes. Let's kind of put that up against there, sculpt that bottle back a little bit. Right, so now I can go into that blue bottle again. And as it starts like a reddish blue, let's make a reddish blue again. And it gets slightly lighter and more obvious that it's a blue as it travels up the bottle. So there, for example, and here, across the top, in the neck. All right, but then it goes a kind of greenish blue, because there's so much green around it, and we're looking through blue glass at a green background. So I'm going to grab some of that green and put it into the blue. See what that looks like. So that's a green blue, and it's the same on this side. Across the top of the shoulder. I might move, we'll grab my shadow, background shadow colour, and move that neck in a little bit. It's a little bit sort of too substantial at the moment. Okay. Some of that green blue, let me grab a lighter bit of it. Some of that green blue travels down that bit of the shoulder there. There's something else going on there as well. It's reflecting the surface on which it sits and that clementine. I'll come to that in a minute though. Let's have a look. Let's get that across there like that. Go back to my green blue. I want to make it more obvious that it's a green blue. There. Come down there, and the stalk I can put in as afterwards. Okay, so I'm not worried about the fact that I've gone over my drawing of the stalk. Right, so there's a dark going up the side of that bottle. So I'm going to restate that. And it's also going up the side of the bottle here. Okay. Now, there's a reflection of the wooden surface, which is slightly darker because it's reflecting onto blue glass. Okay, so that goes up there like that. There. And it's also happening here as well. So on the lower part of the bottle, on the left hand side, where did I mix that? Oh, that was here, wasn't it? It looks kind of like that. Maybe a bit more yellow into it. And for me, it's just kind of a bit like that. Now I'm going to go back into my clear bottle again. So there's a label. The label is darker than the highlights, considerably darker than the highlights. In fact, it's the same tone as the background. So and it's slightly pinkish. Slightly pinkish, really. I'm going to put that in there. There. Now, there's a yellower green. Oh, I mean, I should say at this point is that the blocking in is done. Okay, so now it's basically putting in details into what we've already got. So this can come in there like that. So from now on, it'll be a process of adding in details and refinement. Okay, so there's a darker version of the background, slightly. It's not very strong, but it comes over the shoulder there, and also down here. I mean, this really is an exercise in observation. Now, there's a reflection of the surface, the wood. Let me make sure I've got enough up here. Let me just make that a bit clearer and brighter. Like that there, up there. There's a much lighter green. Let me make sure I've got enough. And it must be a reflection of maybe the light. I've got a spotlight trained on it, coming down here. Okay. I'm going to leave that drawing in there, but I'm going to join up so there's no gap. And same with here. Okay. At the top there's a light up here. And that light comes down there like that. It also runs up the side a bit of this. And then there's a reddish part, which is redder than... I wonder what it is. Is it a reflection of this? It could be. It could be. Okay, so back to the blue bottle. I'm going to close this this part here up to the top of the clementine, and then there's a light blue running through here, which is bluer than the rest of it, more sort of, how would you say, blue in the middle of the colour wheel, rather than reddish or greenish. Maybe that could also come down in here as well. Now, on the shoulder, there's a lightish violet colour. It really is an exercise in observation. So blue plus red plus white. I'm going to put that here. Maybe it's a little bit in the neck as well. There's a darker violet colour on the collar. I don't know what you call it, a collar or whatever, but this part here, there, and there. And also there's that light violet just underneath the collar here. Okay. And then there's a very greenish colour on the right hand side of the neck. Okay. Right, back to the orange. The clementine. I'm going to put a bit more yellow into that orange that I already made. It's quite bright. I started out with a kind of a darkish red because I didn't want to make it too light too soon. So I'm going to put that in there. And it actually seems to get sort of brighter as it turns away from us towards the wooden surface. Okay, and then slightly greenish, a little bit of blue. Round about here. And also, as I look, sort of here as well. Okay. There's a shadow which is darker than I initially put it underneath the leaf, and it drops down the right hand side there. There's this wooden surface is being reflected on the left hand side. So I'm going to grab some of that wood colour, mix it with the orange colour, and just put it there. So in terms of the travel of light, so the light is up here somewhere, about here, right? So the light travels down and it illuminates the objects, and as it passes the objects, the less light is getting in because the objects are in the way, and that casts a shadow. Okay, but then the light hits that surface and then bounces back up, and which is why you can see light underneath the orange. Okay, so I'm going to put a real deep dark. Remember I said I used the burnt sienna for drawing and washes, but also for deep chromatic darks. So I wouldn't use black in this circumstance. Okay, I'm also going to add a bit more red to that. Okay, and I'm going to put that in here under there. Okay. Now, there's a slight darkening to the left of that label. I'm going to use a bit of blue because it's probably reflecting the bottle as well. Just here, see what happens. Okay. That orange is being reflected on that clear glass there. There's a slight darkening of the green, of the clear glass I should say, on its shoulder there, and maybe on the right. And I'm going to run a deepish green down there. My light green, I'm going to actually sort of push that down there, and then I'm going to have to make some more. I was a bit sort of miserly with the paint for the background. Put a bit of blue into it. Okay, a bit more yellow. And then I can sculpt this bottle into shape. And I want to make my strokes kind of seen. I'm not going to start blending at all. It's just that my strokes will be getting smaller. Okay, push that down a little bit. Right, and I want to start doing a little bit of work on the foreground. There's a nice turn on the foreground because the objects were placed very near the edge of that wine box. Push that in. Right. So let's make up a bit more of that wood. It's quite bright, isn't it? I don't want to make it too bright because it become too high-keyed a painting then. Let's have a look. Bit more white into it. Red into it. Let's make a dark of this now. Put a black. A bit of red into the shadow. And a bit of blue into the shadow. Something like that. Because, in fact, the edge, you can't really see it in that photograph. So I have to I had to photograph and put it there because if I didn't, I'd have to use a webcam, and I've already got 3 webcams hooked up, and then the system can't cope with the amount of work it's got to do. So there's the turn on the wood. Yeah, there. Comes around to there. I just want to make sure that comes around a little bit more. Join that up, and let's add some of that into the wood because it does go grayer as it goes off to the left. I'm not going to fill it now. I'm just going to put in some greyish areas to make it look a bit more like wood, hopefully. And this wood can often have a kind of a greenish tinge to it, so I'm going to do that too. I'm going to bring that down. Put some variation in around there. Get some a hue variation into here as well. So that's some, because wood always has a kind of it reflects different colours as well. If you just do it all in one hue, it just doesn't look like wood, I think. So there, that's the turn on it. And now I can go back. I am going to change my brush now. I think I'm going to change it to this one. Let me have a look. What have I got in it? This is the one that I used to make the drawing. This says it's a number 2. A 2 of what metric, I don't know. Right, so where am I? Let me get some more orange there and bring that up. Right there. Now, is the orange reflected in that bottle or not? So about here. There's not much, just to show that it is there. And I want to fix this area here. Push that over. And also this down below here. There. Now, there's a far lighter greenish blue running across the top of the shoulder here in an arc. It's a bit like that up here as well. I'll push that out. There. I want to get that shadow in there. Finish that bit. There's some of that orange is actually reflected in here as well, so put that in there. And here too, just running down from the side of the label, you can see the orange is being reflected. It's reflected in the bottle down below. And there's a green, there's a nice green. Let's grab some of that green, mix it with this one. There's a nice green down at the base of this clear bottle as well, running into that shadowed area. And maybe a little green running down the side of that bottle there. Push this orange out. Now I'll go even lighter with the orange near where the highlight is going to be. There. I want to push that shadow in here as well. Just those there. And now I'm going to put in a few highlights. Let's make cool highlights first. Are they cool? Yeah, there are cool highlights. So white plus a touch of blue and an even tinier touch of red to make a violet, very light violet colour. Put one on that shoulder. Put one there. And inside. And then there's one that comes down off the corner of that. And also on the clear bottle. One up there. One on the shoulder there. And one coming down here. And then there's warm highlights. I think sorry, I missed one of the cool highlights, which is here. Now the warm highlights are white plus yellow plus a tiny touch of red. In both cases, a tiny touch of red. And for the warm, you either go towards yellow or towards blue for the cool highlights. So you load the brush and then put in where you see them. Because I've got cool lights for the video, and I've got warm light for the spotlight. Put that there. And then one up there too. Do I see any others? There's one down the side there as well. Okay, so now I can start what I call making good. Ivor's heard that before, but putting in little sort of notes where I think that they need to go. There. Push that in there. And you can push around the paint a little bit just to, hang on, let me make a dark blue from blue and permanent rose. I'm going to have to steady my hand here, so. Down there, the side of that. This is kind of dark, just running along the top there. And there. And I think I might re-establish that edge there. And push that out a little bit. Needs to come out, and there needs to be a darker bit there as well. And there's a dark running across the, oh yeah, I need to sort of shape my brush a little just before I attempt to put in that edge there. There's a golden highlight actually. We're going to put that, might be a reflection of the orange up there, but because there's light refracting all around the place. You've got to decide whether you're going to put it in or not, I suppose. So, and I can sort of push this into shape as well. It's a bit mucky, that. Just grab some again. Push that shoulder down. There too. I might come in a little bit on that. It doesn't need to be that sort of fat, the neck. Come down there like that. push that bottle into shape. Cut that into that bottle. And now back into the wood grain again. It's warmer as it comes over to the right, so I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow and red into that. And shape that bottle there. Come up there, shape that shadow. There's a lit part just coming across the back of the. I think it's nice if it's in. I could have left it out, but it just gives a bit of definition to that bottle. I'm going to not blend, but just make it that sort of shadow there a little bit more subdued. And I'm going to break up the edge of this bottle a little bit, because it is glass after all, and it's kind of, the edges are often indistinct. Can't always see the edges. I want to come up a little bit as well. The neck is slightly long. Push that up. And same here. There's a lighter part to that label. I mean, the label isn't the important thing, but it just needs more information to put in it. Close that gap up there. Let's get my wood colour. Go back up here and make it a little bit lighter. And then there's that light green, light yellowy green on the left hand side of the clear bottle. I want to restate. There. And even goes up beyond the label just a little bit. Now I'm going to break up these edges a little bit as well. Break them up but not blend them. I don't like the left hand side of the background. Let's see. It needs to be a bit greener, rather. I've got it a bit blue. I don't want to compete with the blue of the bottle. And let's lighten that up a little bit. Right, the stalk is it's a green. It's a natural green, so put a bit of red into it. There's also a bit of white into it. Right, let's put something in. And as I say, I'm going to tip it over to the left. There, and then there's a kind of a reddish light, which I can use that orange colour for, in fact, at the top of it. There. And then there's various little extrusions coming out there, for example, as it meets the orange. Then there's a dark part there, and towards the tip of that leaf there. And there's a kind of a golden green. Push that out. There. And then I'm going to put some white into that. I don't want to be too descriptive of the leaf. We'll keep it slightly indistinct. Now, to the foreground again. So I'm going to lighten up some of that foreground. But I want it to be light and warm. That means I can shape the leaf again. Especially as it comes down towards the edge there. I want to grab my shadow colour under here and break that up so it's not too big. And maybe I'll put in a little sort of an edge there. I just want to break up this down. Oh, maybe I'll put a bit of red into it. That might be nice as well. Just as it turns around towards the wood around there. And then there's a shadow being cast by the stalk. Let's make that a little bit more obvious. I can lose the edges someplace as well. That kind of help it look more like glass. In at the top of the shoulder there a little bit. And there's a slight, that because of that bottle, that blue bottle, there is a kind of hint of blue in that shadow here, which I kind of find is nice. Put that in there. Goes up, and that can go up against the orange. That'll sit well with the orange. Now, just for good measure, I'm going to see if putting a line. This is where there is actually a wooden, 2 bits of wood together. That's why there is an edge underneath. And see whether it kind of does anything for the painting. I have to keep steadying my hand. Push that paint around. Are there any darks? Down there. A little more description in that. There are a few sort of, not quite sure what those areas are, but there. And that, I think, needs to be broken up a little bit. Right. Oh, there's a little light that I want to put in. I'm actually going to use a small brush, a number 1. And there's a little light which is a very light green. So I'm going to put some white into that green. There. A few little dots around here as well. There's light bouncing all over the place in those things. So let me grab a bit of that. And I'll say just come down here again and break up that edge. There. You can wake up now. Now, I don't know whether I tried to correct the colour on this camera. Yeah, that's not bad. You can go up and see if you see will it focus on the texture or whatever. Hard to see. What's it like on the palette camera? Oh, that's not too bad actually. Can it focus up? Oh, yeah, it is focusing. Yeah, it is focusing. It's a bit washed out looking in terms of colour, but there you go. What do you think? Thank you, Ivor. That's very good of you. John K. Not sure what that means. But yeah, so did you follow all that? You weren't painting along with me, were you? I don't know what the Some people do. Yeah. That's very kind of you to say so. Thank you very much, Miles. Yeah, it's just to, I suppose, try and do one every day. Small thing like that. Postcard size. Well, it's a bit bigger than a postcard, but and then the idea is that you do it so much that you get heartily sick of it, and then you'll sort of push yourself to do other stuff. I think that's like anything, isn't it? I used to do martial arts, and karate it wasn't up until about 5 years ago, but a feature of it was just that. Like you had to do, oh, thank you very much, Ivor, that's very good of you. Too kind. Yeah, I should mention that later, shouldn't I? Well, I'll just finish my story. It's just that part of every lesson was doing the basics over and over again. It didn't matter how advanced you were, it's the basics. Most of the lesson was the basics, and then you go on to do sort of stuff appropriate to the level that you achieve. And you know, this was all sort of developed by very wise people, and I think they're right, is that you keep on doing the basics even if you sort of advance to doing something else. And I always like artists who kind of who do something with the craft element, the craft side of things, instead of launching straight into abstract at the beginning, you know. And there was always something. I always felt fraudulent doing it myself. It's only sort of lately that I've felt myself, okay, I'm getting something out of doing abstracts, because you know, I like the craft side of art too. Yeah, paint along. Did you do a paint along, John? I mean, you shouldn't really paint from a picture that's on my screen because, or on your computer screen, because it's not live. You know, I was doing it live, and it's always different because you're moving around. And in fact, what you're doing is throughout the painting, you're sinking in your chair. You know, you can't help it because you know you relax and as you go along, and so your perspective changes, and it never changes with the photograph. And I don't think that is helpful for your painting. You're very welcome, Martin. Thank you very much. If you do feel like supporting me in these videos, I should say this because Ivor kindly reminded me, is, you know, to help me sort of keep it up and everything. Any help you might give is very, very welcome. And you can do that by, you know, liking the video, subscribing, commenting, and there's a little $sign underneath the chat box, and you can buy me a coffee, for example, or you can buy one of the t-shirts or little ebooks that I have. They're also underneath the video, I believe. I never know whether this is actually true or not because I can't see the video. I can't see YouTube. All I can see is my software that I operate the thing from, you know, this live stream. Yeah. That K keeps coming up again. What's it mean? I'm baffled, John. Yes. So yeah. So you know, next week. Always sort of trying to think of something else to do for you. I might actually do a Brunei. Did I mention that last week? Rather than a grisaille, you know, so a black and white or a monochrome painting, which is in advance of putting colour to a painting. So it's the way the old masters used to do it, although what I have is a kind of a modern twist on it, in a sense, that it's actually done by, okay, right, okay. All right, thanks for sort of, yeah, kind of not really sure of their lingo. Yeah, so yeah, we're two people separated by a common language, isn't that what Oscar Wilde said? Oh, Linda, how are you doing? Yes, find time. Yes, do find time. Yeah, so I think what I'll do is that. Okay, so there won't be any colour next week. It will be just me making a still life and using this method of making a Brunei. And in advance, if you're interested, the colours I use are Sennelier actually, which is another paint brand, and they do a warm bright yellow in acrylics. Important that it's this will be in acrylics, and warm bright yellow, ultramarine, and burnt sienna, and maybe a tiny bit of titanium white for the very end. So look up Sennelier warm bright yellow. It's kind of a fleshy color. You can use the guy who taught me the technique didn't use warm bright yellow. I prefer warm bright yellow, but he started out with something called pale terracotta, which is in the Winsor Newton range. So if you do get them, get professional quality, because the student quality ones never sort of give you the same result. It doesn't matter whose they are. So for those professional ones, and the whole object is to make a grey, and so it's called a Brunei because it's warm. It's kind of sort of browns. It's a monochrome but brown, in kind of sepia brown kind of tones, and yeah. Sorry, I nearly knocked the entire palette into my lap there. Yeah, so so it's kind of an old mastery kind of technique. So I hope to see you next week. And listen, thank you very much. Well, I'm glad, John. That's very nice of you to say so. Yeah, so thank you very much for coming along. Have a lovely evening. I'm going to go and wash my hands. Look at that. All day I've been like that, getting paint all over myself. I've probably got some on my face, have I? Anyway, listen, have a lovely evening, and I hope to see you next week. And have a look at all the other videos I've got. I've got some sort of what I call permanent videos. They weren't live streams. They were just made. Got a whole bunch of them on my channel, and do have a look through them. And any suggestions you have for stuff that you'd like to see, if I can do it. I'll certainly give it some consideration. If I feel it's something that I can't do, I'll let you know. But I had a bit of a torrid time painting, what's his face? Oh God! Now that I've come to 2 or 3 weeks ago, Modigliani, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. So listen, have a lovely evening. I don't want to wear out my welcome. So best of luck, everybody, and I shall see you next week. Now, got to go and end this. Bye-bye.